Hello everyone and welcome to Big Friendly Grub and welcome to part 2 of our biscuit special. Yes, as part of National Biscuit Day I have filmed a 3-part series of biscuity specials for you. The last video was me tasting various biscuits that I'd got from the supermarket and ranking them from the worst to the best. I'm sure it's going to be a controversial video for some of you because everyone has the biscuit that they love, everyone has a biscuit that they hate, and no one's going to have exactly the same opinion as me. But it's a video that I wanted to do, I thought would be interesting, and one that might spark up some interesting conversation. If you haven't watched that one, then do go and watch it. But perhaps after you finish this one, or go and watch that one and then come back and watch this one. It's entirely up to you, as long as you watch them, of course. But for this video, we are actually going to be doing some baking this time, and I am going to be baking one of the biscuits that I went over in that taste test video. And I am going to be baking Chocolate Digestives. Yep, I'm going to be baking that classic biscuit, the Chocolate Digestive. They're biscuits that everyone buys in the shop, but have you ever really put thought into making them yourselves? Is it even possible to make them yourselves and make them close to what's in the shop? Well, we're going to give it a go today and find out. Will they be as good? Will they be better? We're going to find out and give it a go. So come join me over here and we'll give it a go. So let's check to see what ingredients we'll need. So starting off, we will need 150 grams of unsalted butter. This is cold unsalted butter, so it's straight out the fridge, kind of like when we were making the pastry for our Bakewell tart in the last video. If you haven't watched that, I highly recommend you watch that one because it's a great dessert. But yeah, we need 150 grams of cold unsalted butter, super cold. It's so cold, in fact, I'm going to quickly chuck this back in the fridge while I am talking about the rest of the stuff. Then we're also going to need about 50 grams of plain flour. It's bog standard plain flour, nothing fancy about it, not strong flour. Then you're going to want some wholemeal flour. I have gone for the Waitrose Duci Organic wholemeal flour because I am posh AF. Because digestives are supposed to be slightly on the wholemeal side, supposed to be easier to digest, hence the name. That's why we're using more wholemeal flour than plain flour. And on top of that, we're going to need some oats. I've got oatmeal here because apparently it's brilliant in baking. If you can't get hold of stone ground fine oatmeal, then you could use porridge oats, fine porridge oats if you can get them, or if you can get regular porridge oats and you can blitz them up in a food processor or something like that, that'll work as well. But I've gone for these because I think that saves me half the job. So if you can get hold of this stuff, great. If not, improvise. Half of baking is improvisation, so if you can't find this, I'm sure you can find something to substitute it. Then you're going to need some bicarbonate of soda, some bicarb. Then you're going to want some dark soft brown sugar. Use the soft brown sugar. Light brown sugar should probably be okay if you can't get the dark stuff, but I would suggest making sure it's like soft. Don't use like coarser sugar like caster sugar or anything like that. Stick with this stuff. Then you're going to need a couple of tablespoons of milk, a little vanilla extract. This is my homemade stuff, but you can get it in the shops, just not vanilla essence, vanilla extract. Then last but by no means least is dark chocolate. I've got quite high cocoa, 85% stuff here. I've got a couple of bars here, but I'm honestly not sure how much we'll need. I wanted to get a couple of bars, so there's probably about 200 grams here. But I wanted to make sure we had enough to coat the tops of our biscuits, or the bottom. Are they the bottoms of the biscuits? Either way, we'll need a good amount of chocolate to coat the biscuits, so we can do it on the fly, see how much we need. And that's it. So let's get on with the actual making and baking part. Oh, that was really jovial, wasn't it? Maybe too jovial. Dial it back, Matt. Dial it back. So I have my bowl and my scales out. I've got my big boy bowl out, so I've got plenty of room for mixing. And I am just going to start off with 50 grams of plain flour. So there we go, 50 grams right there. And then we'll need the 125 grams of wholemeal flour. Try and be as accurate as I can. 126 grams, close enough. I should probably pre-weigh this stuff, but that creates a load of more bowls and washing up. And ain't nobody got time for that. And then we want 125 grams of the oatmeal. So in that goes to, there you go, 125 grams of that. I'm also going to put in a little bit of salt, not loads, just a bit for seasoning. You also want to add in 1/4 teaspoon of bicarb. There we go. And then I'm going to move that away and just put that all together with my hands. already got quite a breadcrumby texture because of the oatmeal. But, or should I say butter, we're going to add this in like so. Again, this is very much like we did with our short crust pastry that we did for our Bakewell tart. If you haven't watched that Bakewell tart video, I suggest you do, because it shows you how to make a short crust pastry. And what we're going to do is very much the same method that we did for that, in that we're going to rub in this butter to the flour and the oatmeal with our fingertips. This will create like a short breadcrumb like texture. So I'm just going to do this. I find it very, very therapeutic. I know some people don't like it, but they don't like the feel of like the butter and the flour between their fingers, but I think it's great. Very much a good way to unwind. So I'm going to keep doing this until we get a nice breadcrumb like texture. It's quite warm today, so this is going to soften up quite quickly, so I'm going to try and speed this up. Because it is so warm and my hands are warm, the butter's melting a little bit quicker than it usually would. So that's why I've got a knife, and I'm just going to cut through the butter to mix it in, just to stop it melting anymore. So I'm going to do this for a bit as well. Takes a bit of time, but overall there's no rush. Just know when your butter's melting and it's getting too soft to handle. It's something you'll pick up in a little bit of time, but otherwise the knife, if you want to try the knife method from the start, go ahead. So I brought our bowl back, and I'm going to add in 50 grams of this soft brown sugar. A little too much, take that away, and that bit as well. There we go, 52 grams, close enough. As I've said previously, baking is a science, but if you're over by 1 or 2 grams, it ain't going to kill you, so don't worry about it. And then move that out of the way again, and mix this in as well. And get out some lumps of the sugar. There are some lumps of butter in here still, but that's okay, they'll come together once we actually start mixing this into our biscuit dough. I was about to say biscuit pastry, and I suppose it kind of is in a way, but it's a dough. Now I'm going to chuck in a teaspoon of vanilla extract, a little bit there. Don't have to, I just love adding this stuff wherever I can. Then 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons of milk. Chuck that in there. Bong. And then start to bring this all together. Ease it gently at first, and then start bringing it together. It's looking like wet sand, proper wet sand now. In fact, you could probably build a sandcastle out of this. That would probably be the tastiest sandcastle ever. Not that I've tasted sand, don't recommend it. See, that's starting to come together into our dough. Pick up all the bits here. See, that's cleaning up the bowl quite nicely. Now, I'm going to move this out. Pop that down there. Just going to chuck a little bit of the flour down here. So I've got the flour down, and I'm just going to start bringing this together just so it becomes a bit more firm, a bit smoother. Like we did with the short crust pastry, you can't tease it with your fingertips. You want a nice short texture. You want it to be smooth, but you don't want it to be like too tough. You're going to want nice crumbly biscuits. You can see that's coming together, starting to look really nice and smooth. So that's come together quite nicely. So now I'm going to go get something to wrap that in. So I've got some baking parchment, and I'm going to wrap this up gently. So I'm going to pop that in the fridge for about 30 minutes at least. It is quite warm today, so I want this to firm up nicely before we roll it out to form our biscuits. So our biscuit dough has had a good, probably had a good 45 minutes in the fridge now, because like I said earlier, it is quite warm. So I am going to unwrap this. So you can see it's firmed up some. It's not firmed up as much as I would have liked. I could have left it longer, but this should be fine. It's feeling firm around the edges, a little bit softer in the middle, but we can make this work. So what we're going to want to do is throw down some flour. Flour, mate. You want to get some of that flour down there. God blimey, governor. Mary Poppins, apples and pears, all that. So yeah, get some flour down. We're going to roll this out to be probably a good couple millimeters thickness, whatever thickness of a digestive is really. So roly. There will be some breakage around the edges, don't you worry about that none, son. So get it rolled out until it's to a thickness that you think will work. Don't worry about the breaking around the edges, because we can always roll it all back up, because I'm sure we'll have a little bit of excess and then we can scrunch it all back up and do another quick re-roll. I reckon that's going to be thick enough, too much thinner, and these aren't going to hold their shape that well. So that's rolled out. See, there's some breakage here, but I can just pop that down and voila, back together. Then I'm going to pop a pile of flour down there, because you're going to want this to dip a biscuit cutter, cookie cutter, whatever you want to call it, into that flour, just so you can get your dough out in a nice shape, stop it sticking to your cutter. Couldn't tell you what size cutter this is because I didn't measure it. It looks like digestive size to me. But if you want to go bigger, if you want to go smaller, that's entirely up to you. Just make sure you've got a nice cookie cutter like this. So I'll put this into the flour and make a cut, push down, move it about a bit so that comes out. That one might be a bit thin, but never mind. That one as well. And just repeat, lather, rinse, repeat. See, they're nice circular shape. That's probably about the right sort of thickness that you want, I would say. Some of the others might be a bit thinner, but probably about that thickness, I would say. And then pop onto a baking sheet that I've already lined with some baking parchment. Also, if you can get silicone mats that fit onto your baking tray, then do. I have got a couple, but I'm showing you just with the baking parchment. So you can see our biscuit dough is laid out on there. I've got room for a couple more, so I'm going to do a couple more. So I'm going to bring this all back together, scrunch it all back up. We can probably do this one more time before the integrity of our dough doesn't become strong enough and it will be tough to roll out. So I'm going to use this flour here, pop that down, quickly roll this out. I'm not going to do this as thin this time because it's gotten warmer, the dough's gotten warmer, and it's not going to roll out as well. So that's as thick as I'm going to dare to do it, and then use a bit of this and do a few more biscuits. I've managed to get a dozen biscuits on there, and I've got some leftover dough, so I might chill this again and quickly roll out a few more. So you're probably going to get about 12 to 15 of these, I think. Depends on how thick or thin or how big you want to do them. It's not exact, it all depends on your size of your cutter and how much dough you've managed to do. You see so many recipes that say, oh, it was made exactly 12 biscuits. Doesn't matter. You have more, you have more, you have less, that's it, don't worry. So these are going to go back into the fridge probably for a good 15 minutes or so, because we want them to keep their shape as much as we possibly can while baking. We don't want them to spread out too much, so we get that nice digestive shape. So back into the fridge with these and back in 15 minutes or so. So I've actually given our biscuits a good probably about 20 to 25 minutes to chill in the fridge to make sure that they hold their shape when they're baked. And you can probably see I've managed to do another 5 biscuits out of the dough that I had left over, giving us a grand total of 17. Not an even number by any means, which is a little upsetting, but I've managed to add up 12 and 5, so that GCSE maths came in useful after all. So before these go into the oven, we want to give them a bit of that distinctive digestive look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that one away from that one for starters, and what I've got here is an ordinary bamboo skewer. I said that slowly because I just tried to say that about 5 times and messed it up royally. And then what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to pop some holes here in that time and honoured digestive manner. I can't remember whether there's like 4 holes in them or 6 holes or 5 holes. I just know they've got holes in them. So there we go, we've given them a few holes just for a bit of pleasing aesthetics. You'll notice that these ones are probably a little bit thicker than the ones that I've got over here, just because I didn't want to roll out the dough too much more on the dough I had left over fear of ruining its structure. But I am now going to pop these into the oven at about 190 degrees C, which is probably about 370 degrees Fahrenheit, about gas mark 5 or 6 I think. I'll put all the temperatures and ingredients and all of that into the YouTube description, and there'll be a link to the recipe on my site as well, so don't worry if I don't have them exact here, they will be available. So yeah, into the oven now for a good 10 to 15 minutes. So I've taken the biscuits out of the oven and they've probably had a good 15, maybe slightly more than 15 minutes, nearer 20, but perhaps not quite. And they've browned out quite nicely. This one a little bit more so because it's thinner, but you can probably hear that they sound fairly firm, but they need a bit of time now to cool down, to firm up. Hopefully they won't crack too much. That one's starting to develop one, but it should be okay. But these are going to need some time to cool down on the trays. So while these are cooling down, I'm going to move these over to the side and we can get on with melting our chocolate, because by the time we've done with that, hopefully these should be then cool enough to put our chocolate on. So let's start with that. Don't know what that was all about. Pleased with myself, I guess. So what we're going to want to do now is to melt our chocolate, and to do that I would recommend not doing it in the microwave because you run the risk of splitting it, and that's just general bad times really. So I would suggest we do it the old-fashioned way with a saucepan, a metal bowl. Probably metal bowl is better than a glass bowl. You can do it with a glass bowl, but you've got to be careful. It's like a really good Pyrex one that's not going to shatter. I've had that before. So yeah, I'm using a metal bowl. No chance of it smashing, shattering, cracking, anything like that. So at the moment I've got a pan over a medium-high heat at the moment, just to start off with. Then I'm just going to add some boiling water to this. We don't want loads, probably not even enough to half fill this. That's probably plenty. So we're going to want to make sure this is simmering, not boiling. We don't want this to be bubbling up, hitting the bottom of our bowl, because chocolate and water don't mix. If the water starts hitting the bottom of this, we're going to start getting condensation in the bowl, and that will mix with our chocolate and it will start to split and it will go horribly wrong. So chocolate and water do not mix. If you learn one thing at all from this video, chocolate and water, no. Chocolate and milk, chocolate and butter, chocolate and pretty much anything else is all great, but chocolate and water, no, bad. So I just got to wait for this to come up to a very gentle simmer. It's not too far off, but it's the boring bit. Amuse yourselves for a couple of minutes. Don't go anywhere though. So how you doing? How's your day going? It's Bank Holiday Monday here. Everyone else is out playing. I'm here watching water boil. I've done worse things with my life, to be fair. So I would say that's probably about right. It's simmering, but it's not at like that rolling boil stage. We're getting like gentle bubbles coming up, but it's not like breaking the surface too much. So what I'm going to do is going to pop our bowl over the top, and then I'm going to lower the temperature of that because we don't want it to then trap all that heat in there, cause the water to then start to boil because it's trapping the steam in there and causing it to boil. So we'll bring that down, probably down to about, you can't see, I've got it on a 4 at the moment. That's probably enough, maybe even like a 3.5. You're going to have to kind of learn your hob for this. I'm still relatively new with this hob because I've only been in this flat a couple of months. Actually coming up to 2.5 months. So we're going to allow the bottom of this to heat up, which is where we will then start to melt our chocolate. So I'm just popping our dark chocolate in here. I have got 200 grams here. That's probably going to be enough. Don't want too much chocolate. So you can see that's already starting to melt. And I'm just going to grab a wooden spoon and start just to gently move this around. Don't need to agitate it too much. Oi, you! Oi! See, don't want to agitate it too much. Got to pop that down to a 3 actually, because I just want to keep this warm really, enough for it to melt, stay melted. We don't want to then start to like overheat our chocolate. Just want to let it gently melt, and also you don't want any foil in there because that wouldn't be nice, unless you particularly like eating foil. I'm not one to judge. You could of course go with dark chocolate with a slightly lower cocoa percentage. I've gone with quite a high one. Or you could go with milk chocolate if you wanted, if that's your preference. That is absolutely fine too. You You could even try white chocolate. White chocolate on a digestive. Would that work? I don't know. Why don't you experiment? It's what baking's all about. Experimenting. See, this is melting quite nicely now. So you can see that looks completely melted. It's nice and smooth and glossy and silky, which is what we want. So I'm just going to pop that down to a low heat just to keep the temperature of this about level, so we keep it melted. So I'm just going to leave this on here and just go check on our biscuits, see if they're cool enough to start putting this chocolate onto. So I'm going to try and decorate these with chocolate now. Note I use the word try because I've said before, decorating's not always my best point. But these are cooler, they're not completely cool because I just want to keep them warm enough to hopefully be able to spread the chocolate around. You also notice I've got a tray under here to catch any stray chocolate that may go anywhere. So let's give this a go, shall we? So I've just got a dessert spoonful of chocolate. And just spread it over the top like so, spread it around. Smooth it out. That looks alright, nice and smooth and glossy. And do the same again. Not doing it too thick. If you have more chocolate, then you could do it a bit thicker. I'm going to see how much chocolate we have got to start with because I don't want to run out of chocolate. Although I do have another bar in the cupboard in case of emergency. See, I'm making a little bit of a mess, but that doesn't matter. Baking's messy and it's fun because it's messy. It's not like you're spilling lava everywhere. You can clean this up, it's absolutely fine. So I'm just going to keep doing this until all my biscuits are covered. If I've got enough chocolate left over, then I might add a bit more, because you can never have too much chocolate. Well, you can. I'm sure your doctor would say you can have too much chocolate, and I'm sure a lot of diabetics would say you can definitely have too much chocolate. Although dark chocolate's better, not as much sugar. So you can see these are all coated in chocolate now, and I've actually got a little bit left over, so I'm going to add some more onto the top just to have more chocolate. I've also got it all over myself as well. Told you it was messy. So I've covered all the biscuits, got a nice amount of chocolate on each one of them. So now you're just going to have to leave these to set until all the chocolate's all nice and set and ready to eat, basically. So this could take half hour, an hour. All depends on the temperature of your kitchen, temperature outside. You could try and move this into the fridge, but to be honest, I haven't got enough room in my fridge for the cooling racks in there. So I'm just going to let these set naturally and we'll come back a little later. So our chocolate digestives have had time to set. I did end up putting them into the fridge just because they were taking ages to set outside of the fridge. Again, because it's quite warm today, they're taking their time, so I did manage to clear some space in the fridge. So they're all set and they're ready for us to take a look. So let's do that right now. So here we go. Magically, we have had a plate of chocolate digestives that we've made all by ourselves appear in front of us. And they're looking all right, actually. They look good, they've set well, they've baked well. I will bring them a bit closer so you can have a look. They look pretty good. Would have liked to have put a nice pattern onto the top of these, but I didn't want to faff about too much with them. I was more interested in getting them right. You can see a really nice bake on them. And I think there's nothing else left to do except to give one a try. They're good, you know. They got a good bake on them. There's quite a lot of chocolate, making it difficult to speak. I've gone one for one of the thinner ones. So the biscuit to chocolate ratio isn't as great, but I'm quite happy with those. The only thing I would say is I'd probably use slightly less dark chocolate next time, but you can use whatever you want. You can use the 70% cocoa chocolate, you can use the milk chocolate, you can even attempt a white chocolate if you want. They've got a nice snap on them. Woo! But they've got that crumbly digestive texture, and I think the thicker ones will be better, but I'm going to save those for my work colleagues. I'm really happy with how they baked. They've got a really nice crumb on them. I don't know if you can see that because the lighting's not the best, but overall, yeah, I'm pretty happy with those. So I'm going to finish up because the chocolate's melting in my hands. To be honest, I wish I had a cup of tea to try this with to see how it dunks. So I'm pretty happy with those. So why not give them a go yourself? And we've still got one more video in our National Biscuit Day special, so stick around for that, which will hopefully be coming up tomorrow. And I will see you on the next Big Friendly Grub. Bye!